Hello everybody, Aiden here, and welcome to another video on the Around the Slice YouTube channel. So we have had about a week now to stew on and digest in totality the 2026 NFL Draft and that entire class. So I'm here today to give you my personal grades for the first run, 1 to 32. This is a little mini series kicking off because in the coming days we're going to do my favorite day 2 picks, runs 2 through 3 of course, rounds 2 and 3, I should say, rather, of course. And then my favorite day 3 picks, rounds 4 through 7. So let's get into the first round grades for today in that said situation. And let's start with none other than number 1 overall, Las Vegas Raiders selecting Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana. Listen, guys, luckily they did not overthink this. I know it was a select few people, but there was a small select few group of people that were kind of saying, well, they signed Kirk Cousins, so maybe the Raiders can kind of trade down and go BPA and then on paper go with next year's on paper outstanding QB class. 1, your goal isn't to be picking number 1 overall ever again. But 2, that's a dangerous game to play when you already have the number 1 overall pick. I'm going to give this an A+. Luckily, they didn't overthink it, so A+. I never agreed with that sentiment, and I still don't. Anyway, number 2, New York Jets, David Bailey, edge rusher, Texas Tech. I would have slightly preferred Alvaro Reese because I think Aaron Glenn could do some really fun things with that versatility with that player in terms of putting him at linebacker and edge rusher and doing some really creative and fun things with him. So that's where I would have gone. But I can't deny Ruben Bain and David Bailey were like a 1A, 1B situation in this draft in terms of edge rushers. So I will go B+. They needed an edge rusher to tie it all together at the end of the day. They had Joseph Ossai, Kingsley Enagbare, Will McDonald. I will say, though, between Will McDonald and David Bailey, that's a lot of speed and burst and bend off the edge. But you don't really have any run, quote-unquote, run stoppers off the edge. Again, that's not what edge rushers are for. At the end of the day, luckily they have guys on the inside like Harrison Phillips and T'Vondre Sweat and Juwan Briggs and what have you for that. But I'm going to give David Bailey a B+. Would have slightly preferred Alvaro Reese, but you can't ding a phenomenally talented player like this too much. Next, number 3, Arizona Cardinals. They take number 3 overall, Arizona Cardinals. Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love is awesome, obviously, but for the Arizona Cardinals, I just do not see the fit here whatsoever. They have so much money tied up in the one running back position. They just paid Tyler Algier last month in free agency, and that was a pretty hefty contract. What was it, 3 years, 18 point something, 6.75 or so per year over 3 years. That doesn't make sense to me. And then a month later, you draft Jeremiah Love, and you intentionally committed to bringing back James Conner on a pay cut / restructured, reworked contract situation. So I'm going to give it a B-. They had way more pressing offensive line needs. Their starting right tackle right now is Elijah Wilkinson. Okay. And then on defense, they've made investments, but they haven't come near to coming to fruition like B.J. Ojulari and Darius Robinson and depth guys like Baron Browning and stuff like that. So Jeremiah Love is a phenomenal talent, but I'm giving it a B- because this doesn't, fit the team situation and quote-unquote vision, if there even is one. Number 4 overall, Cardell Tate. This was slightly surprising. I still love it, but it was surprising he went over guys, especially for a defensive-minded head coach and Robert Saleh, over guys like an Arvell Reese, true Swiss Army knife, Sonny Styles, which I thought would just be a perfect fit for them because 1, they needed linebacker desperately badly, and then 2, it's Sonny Styles. But the more I think about it, I do love helping out Cam Ward. They had guys in terms of the target distribution, like last year, like Kelvin Ridley, Chimedike, like Amano on the outside. And I know they just paid Wan'Dale Robinson a big chunk of money, 17 per over 3 years for Brian Daboll's guy in free agency last month. But 1, he's a slot receiver, and 2, he's never been an alpha and never will be. I think getting a true vertical X-plane outside receiver like this, vertical plane receiver like this, in Cardell Tate is a B+. I was a little surprised they went offense over defense, but I love helping out Cam Ward, so B+. Number 5 overall, New York Giants. This was Alvaro Reese. He slipped a couple past, with what he would have been, should have been rather. I don't like the fit here because if you look at him as an edge rusher, they have Brian Burns, they have Abdul Carter, and they say they're not trading Kayvon Thibodeaux. So where's the playing time there? They came out and said they're going to start him at linebacker and see where it goes. But even then, I question it a little because they have Tremaine Edmunds and they have Micah McFadden. Although I guess at the end of the day, McFadden last month was a very cheap 1-year deal. So ideally, he's a backup for you. That was kind of a fallback option here. They should have went with Sonny Styles. That was a sprint to the podium type pick. But I can't deny a front four. They should trade Kayvon Thibodeaux now. They say they're not, but come on, there's no use for him now. I will admit, a front four down lineman of Arvell Reese, Brian Burns, Tremaine Edmunds in creative ways as well, and Abdul Carter is just nuts, scary, the best in the league by far in terms of your 4 down line, then quote unquote package there, the NASCAR package. So, I'm gonna give this a B. I question Arvell Reese's fit. He's a good player, but I'm going to give it a B mainly because of the fit and just the oversaturation of edge rushers there as well. Number 6, Kansas City Chiefs. So Mansour Delane, corner LSU. So Mansour Delane was a true shutdown corner, and obviously Jermon McCoy, the injury stuff. I like Mansour Delane. Actually love him a lot as a prospect. But did they have to trade up 3 spots? Were you really worried about Washington taking him at 7 when Sonny Styles was still on the board in number 8 with the Saints when a few offensive weapons, give or take, around there were still on the board? You didn't have to trade up from 9 to 6. So because of that, I ding it a little because of the philosophy of trading up was not needed in the least, in my opinion. But Mansour Delane is a great player. Now their corner room looks like Kader Kohou, who is just a fine at best slot corner, in my opinion. Noah Williams, who was a day 3 gem last year, and Mansour Delane to tie it all together. Mansour Delane's comp actually was Trent McDuffie, so that fits perfectly. I was surprised that they valued a corner like this, taking one this high, let alone trading up from 9 to 6 overall, because they don't pay corners and they don't draft them high. Trent McDuffie was a late first-round pick. Rashad Fenton was a day 3 pick a few years ago. L'Jarius Sneed, before they moved on from him, was a day 3 pick 4 or 5 years ago, rather. So, again, I'm going to give this a B+. I'm a bit surprised that they valued corner like this, because they never do, and they traded it up. It was just kind of weird, in my opinion, but whatever. Number 7, Washington Commanders. This is a home run pick. There's not much to it. Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. I'm giving this an A+. At linebacker, now they have Leo Chenal and Sonny Styles, and I guess technically still Frankie Louvu, but let's be honest, with that front, you're basically an edge rusher, weaponized blitz package player for them. You have a lot of creative things you can do now with Leo Chenal as a take-on blitz linebacker. Frankie Louvu is a take-on blitz linebacker, and then Sonny Styles is like an all-pro generational coverage linebacker. You kind of have to beef up the back end in terms of safety, but Sonny Styles' coverage ability is unmatched in this class, so A+. I'm going to go 2 A+ in a row with number 8 overall, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State to the New Orleans Saints. Injuries aside, he's the most purely gifted and talented wide receiver in this entire draft class. Yes, I said it, even over a guy/player like Carnell Tate. I love this for Chris Olave, and who knows, with Chris Olave's very extensive, college and NFL concussion history, and him being in the final year of his deal, you'd think they would sign him, but him being in the final year of his deal, Jordan Tyson has the upside to become the number 1 option. I'm going to give this an A+. I love Jordan Tyson as a prospect. This might be too high for some people, but not me. Next, 9, Cleveland Browns. When the Chiefs traded up, this is who they traded with, and Browns got a lot of value. You could argue that Spencer Fano would have been the pick at number 6 overall for them, and they still got the guy at number 9 overall, Spencer Fano, tackle from Utah. I'm going to give it an A- just because by a hair, I preferred Francis Mauigoa, who went the very next pick, but A- at the end of the day. 10th overall, New York Giants, Francis Mauigoa, guard, Miami. It is interesting how they draft Reese at 5 overall. They come out and say immediately he's going to be a full-time linebacker to start with, minimal edge rusher. And then at number 10 overall, they take Mauigoa here, and they're going to convert him to guard immediately because they have Andrew Thomas at left tackle and Jermaine Illumino at right tackle, and then John Runyon at right guard, and then left guard Mauigoa. I would have liked to see a team take Mauigoa to be tackle, but There's no denying that there's no room for that with the Giants, and they need guard very desperately. You could have gone with the pure actual guard projection, technically his position in Vega Ione, but he went to a dream situation in the Ravens, which we'll get to in a few moments here. I'm going to give an A-. I just I just question the convert to tackles as guard just a slight bit. Number 11, Dallas Cowboys. Phenomenal value. Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State. And they came out and said they're going to play him in the slot. So your secondary is much improved now. You're looking at Siobhan Rebel at one corner spot, Deron Bland at the other outside corner spot, Caleb Downs in the slot, and then Malik Hooker and Jalen Thompson at safety, who both, especially Jalen Thompson, are grossly underrated safeties in this league in today's day and age, currently, in my opinion. I'm not going to give it A+ because, again, it's Caleb Downs, phenomenal value player. Trading up from 12 to 11 because you were guaranteed to get one of Downs or Bain. I guess they really fell in love with Downs. I don't blame them. But trading up one spot is always a little kind of perplexing and weird to me personally. That's why I don't give it an A+. But outside of that, I'm going to give it an A. So this is the team who traded with the Cowboys. Cowboys went from 12 to 11. Dolphins went from 11 to 12. And Dolphins gross reach here. Number 11 overall, Miami Dolphins. Caden Proctor, tackle Alabama. They come out and say that he's going to play left guard for them. They're going to keep all their pieces where they are right now. Patrick Paul, promising left tackle. I'm cool with that. Right tackle is Austin Jackson. I would have liked them to see draft a more cleaner projection tackle and kick Austin Jackson back into guard. I think he's a decent enough tackle, but a really good guard for them. But they're not going to do that. They're going to kick Caden Proctor into left guard instead, which makes it even more stupid, in my opinion. I think they should have taken Vega Ione or even Monroe Freeling, or like Miller would have been severe reaches too. But, well, not Freeling severe, but you get the point, hopefully. Caden Proctor here, tackle, guard, whatever. I'm giving it a D because technically offensive line was a need. That's the only thing holding it back from an F. But Caden Proctor has all athleticism, all pop and flash, but like zero technique. Very little, damn near zero technique. So that's kind of why I give it a D. 13, Los Angeles Rams, Ty Simpson, QB, Alabama. You're the Rams. You've been the Super Bowl contenders for 2 or 3 years now. Last few years at the very least. You have Puka Nacua. You have Devontae Adams. You should have drafted Mekhi Lemon, or the tackles were gone. You should have drafted Mekhi Lemon, or at least traded back a little and still got Mekhi Lemon. But you chose to do a gross reach in Ty Simpson, QB, Alabama. Terrible pick. I did not like. Technically, Ty Simpson was my QB2 in this class, technically speaking, but that's more of an indictment on this class because it's a very horrible. Well, there was Mendoza. Very bad QB class. I'm going to give it F. There's just no way around it. Number 14 overall, Baltimore Ravens. This is who the Dolphins should have picked instead of Caden Proctor converting a less than ideal tackle to less than ideal guard. Dolphins, excuse me. But number 14, Baltimore Ravens, Vega Ione. I'm shocked he was here. Honestly, all the steam moves getting guard Penn State. I give this an A+. Now, center's still a problem, but outside of that, your offensive line looks awesome. Left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. Right, check. Right tackle, Roger Rosengarten. Right guard, John Simpson. Left guard, Vega Ione. I guess your penciled in starter at center, quote-unquote penciled in, is Danny Pinter. That's got to get better. But Vega Ione, A+. Can't believe he's here. Speaking of A+, 15, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Outstanding pick. Now, I know I don't understand it. I know why the NFL viewed him as quote-unquote falling. Short arms, off the field issues, although teams were aware of that. Ruben Bain, defense of Miami. I don't care. If he's good, he's good. Did you watch Ruben Bain at Miami on tape? Whoa, he has short arms. Who gives a damn? Do you watch Ruben Bain on tape at Miami for any second point of the last 3 years? I'm going to give this an A+. It was bust, edge, or Russia, or bust for them, in my opinion. They were mocked all draft process to get Akeem Mesdor, the other flat, very dominant Miami pass rusher, but Bain, you can't pass up. 16, New York Jets. This is very questionable. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon. I like Sadiq a lot. Tested like an elite athlete at the combine. But the process here makes no sense. I don't get it, guys. You just drafted Mason Taylor last year. That wasn't a nothing pick. That was a high second round pick. Tight end board. That was a high second round tight end. Okay? I feel like they needed a true extra vertical playing X receiver to pair with Garrett Wilson. Now the slot is really clogged up now with Mason Taylor, with Kenyon Sadiq, with Omar Cooper, who I think is a better pick. We'll talk about it later on in a few moments. Plus, get more give or take here, but yeah, I'm gonna give this C plus. I don't get this one. I would give it lower, but Sadiq is very talented. I don't see the playing time in year one. I think there's still a chance that Mason Taylor is not easily, but slightly their tight end one in terms of targets, receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. And he's a much better blocker than Sadiq. So I'm going to give that a C plus. 17th overall, Detroit Lions, Blake Miller, tackle Clemson. Now this grade comes from and derives from me personally, comparing two players. I think the sprint to the podium type pick would have been and should have been Monroe Freeling, left tackle out of Georgia, but instead they take a right tackle out of Clemson and Blake Miller. I don't want to say nearly, but bottom line, I wasn't as high on Blake Miller as a prospect as others. People are putting him firmly in their first round. I thought he was a borderline first round pick. Again, to me personally, at least, late one, early two type grade type. Well, I don't do official grades, but like in my head type scenario. And Brad Holmes would come out and said it multiple times after taking Blake Miller. Hell, even before taking Blake Miller, but now even more so. They're going to move Penei Sewell from right tackle to left tackle, and Blake Miller would play right tackle. Instead of doing all that, why don't you just take an actual left tackle on Monroe Freeling? So from that standpoint in comparison, I'm giving this a letter grade of a C at the end of the day. Number 18, Minnesota Vikings. So this is a position, a need that not enough people are talking about. Like, they're starting interior guys right now were Ty Ingram, Dawkins, and Levi Drake Rodriguez. I don't know the other. One of them I know and one of them I don't. That's pretty telling right there. They take Caleb Banks, defensive tackle to Florida. You could argue if there was one D tackle you could bet, quote unquote, bet on this draft, it was Caleb Banks, because the physical traits are off the charts and the flashes are insane and nutty. I'm going to give it a C, though, because like Caden McDonald was there, Christian Miller was Caden McDonald was there, Peter Woods was there. I think Peter Woods would have been an absolutely phenomenal scheme fit if you wanted to go defensive tackle. So comparison-wise, I'm going to give it a C. 19, Carolina Panthers. So this is right around the range Monroe Freeling, tackle out of Georgia, was projected to go all process long last month or two, or damn near month or two or so. So it's not the player. It's just, did you really need that position of need? Like Dylan Thieneman, dream fit, passed on him. He has to wait even longer. Hakeem Mesidor passed on him. The couple defensive tackles, Caden McDonald and Peter Woods. I think McDonald would have been a perfect fit, scheme fit, and Thieneman even more so to go with the creativity of Trayvon Moehrig with Ejiro Evero as the DC defensive coordinator over there. I'm going to give this a B. Like, day one, Rasheed Walker probably starts over Monroe Freeling, and if you're taking a guy at 19th overall, he needs to start day one. So from that standpoint, B. 20th overall, Philadelphia Eagles. This is just true value. Typical Howie Roseman, getting a player that he has no business even coming close to getting. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. I'm giving it an A+. It seems like they're preparing for life after A.J. Brown and want to emphasize the middle of the field passing game of Jalen Hurts way more than they have been, if you would, give or take, between Eli Sowers and, more importantly, specifically this year, in Mekhi Lemon. 21st overall. I don't get the hate for this one, guys. Pittsburgh Steelers, Max Ianachor, tackle, Arizona State. Is it a bit oversaturation? Because Broderick Jones, one, he may never play football again because of the severe neck injury and surgery and history there. And two, even when he does play football, he is good enough, decent enough, I guess. So Max Ianachor is a raw right tackle, and you already have Troy Fautanu at your right tackle, but you could do mixing and matching with that. Tackles are usually pretty versatile, especially Fautanu going into year two, and then Ianachor is a rookie. I'm going to say A+. And who knows, maybe they sign a veteran like Taylor Decker, who's still out there, Jonah Williams, who's still out there, who can play both spots, and they bring Ianachor along slowly. But right now, paper, surface level at a glance, A+. Next, Los Angeles Chargers, Hakeem Mesidor, defense in Miami. Aiden is 25 years old. How can you take a guy in the first round like that? I don't care. The whole draft day situation, I've gone on this soapbox before. The whole draft day draft age situation, conversation, discussion, what have you, is so grossly overrated. The only position where I quote unquote care about it, if that, is running back because they have a short shelf life to begin with. But you have Khalil Mack, you have Tuli Tuipulotu, and Khalil Mack's a veteran. And in terms of veteran age, Akeem Mesdor's 25, Saki year will be 26. That's a very nice future pair of him and Tuipulotu. I'm gonna go A+. I don't give a damn about the draft age thing. 23 overall, Dallas Cowboys. They traded back from 20 to 23. This is not a player like I would have loved TJ Parker. I think Keldrick Falk will be a hand and glove fit. I think this guy was a little overrated, overhyped. Malachi Lawrence, defense friend from UCF. Now, the positive is he doesn't have to come in and play a ton of snaps year one. You have Rashawn Gary for that. Okay. You had Donovan Azaraku, last year's high second round pick for that. So Malachi Lawrence, from that standpoint, I get it, but this is not a player I thought was overhyped. So C- from all that perspective and such. Number 24 wall, Cleveland Browns. This was a steal. I mean, I would have taken Casey Concepcion 15 to 20th pick. Like Jets at 16, they effed it up instead of taking Sadiq. They wanted a true weapon with Garrett Wilson. They should have taken Casey Concepcion. Wide receiver at Texas A&M. I'm going to give it an A+. I mean, they improved the receiving corps significantly. They have Harold Fannin, Jared Judy, who gives a shit about. They have Denzel Boston, and here, more specifically now and excitedly now, they have Casey Concepcion, who they do a lot of creative, fun things with. Don't look now, but that offense outside of quarterback can be really humming. A+. 25th, Chicago Bears. This is arguably my favorite pick of the entire first round, let alone the whole damn draft as a whole. Overall, Dylan Thieneman, safety, Oregon. There's nothing else to say. A+. Cam Lewis can't be a starter for you. Dime package role, if that. So, high-end special teamer. They have Kobe Bryant. They remade their whole safety room. They let C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Bills, Kevin Byard to the Patriots, and Jaquan Brisker, very surprisingly cheap deal to the Steelers. They let all them walk out the door and remade their safety room literally and figuratively overnight here. Dylan Thieneman, safety, Oregon, gets an A+. Outstanding. This one is really questionable to me, like very much so. 26, Houston Texans. They trade from 28 to 26 with the Buffalo Bills. Fun fact. Keelan Rutledge, guard, Georgia Tech. There's so much going on here. One, I don't think Keelan Rutledge was a first-round pick. Mid to early to mid second-round pick, in my book, if you want to push them up there. Second, everyone's saying, oh, they desperately need a line in this first round. Did they? Like, they signed Wyatt Teller. They signed Braden Smith. They have Ariante Ursary. Excuse me. We signed Ed Ingram. They have a lot of offensive linemen. None of them are outstanding and young, maybe, but they have a lot of veteran presence on that offensive line. So did they really need it? I think the offensive line need was overstated for once for the Texans, let alone taking Keelan Rutledge here. I know they still got Caden McDonald in the mid second round, was it? But they should have just taken him here and been done with it. So not only did they take Keelan Rutledge, not a first round pick, they traded up for him, and I don't think offensive line was nearly as big of a need as people were stated. Overstated need, if you will, for me personally. I'm going to give it a D. It is an offensive lineman at the end of the day, but D. 27, Miami Dolphins. Chris Johnson, corner, San Diego State. I'm not in love with it as much as other people are. I will admit the Jeff Hafley defensive philosophy from Green Bay. It's a perfect scheme fit. But they took him over guys like Jermon McCoy, injuries be damned, like Colton Hood, like Brandon Cisse. So there were a few corners. Even D'Angelo Ponds I liked more. There were a few corners, 3 or 4 corners that I liked a lot more than Chris Johnson from San Diego State. So from that standpoint, I give it a B relative to the players they took him over. Not a grade of a B. 28 overall, New England Patriots. Caleb Lomu, tackle, Utah. Really like Caleb Lomu. On the downside, I am a bit hesitant where the playing time here will come from because you have Will Campbell, left tackle. Everyone, probably me included, wants to move him on the interior to guard. But the problem is, where's the room at guard? You have Elijah Vera Tucker at left guard, Jared Wilson shifting over to center, and Michael Wenyu, who's been a staple at right guard for many years now. And then at right tackle, you have Morgan Moses. So that's what I think this is. You're keeping Will Campbell at left tackle, and I think Caleb Lomu is a 1-year sit behind Morgan Moses plan and then go with him for the future. Right tackle with Will Campbell. Hopefully he works out there. I'm going to give him an A- for that. Of Lomo. 29 overall, Kansas City Chiefs. I think Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson, was being way overthought. Like, yeah, he didn't. He had a very down year, just like the whole damn Clemson defense. Avion Terrell, TJ Parker more so, and specifically here in this scenario, Peter Woods with this pick. That was more Tom Allen, DC defense coordinator coming from Penn State to Clemson last year. Not to get nerdy about it, but he deployed his guys and didn't do him any favors at all. So I'm going to give this an A+. People are getting way too down on Peter Woods. You have a run stuffing, do it all nose defensive tackle, and Chris Jones, who can live on the edge as well. And then Peter Woods, a penetration style 3-tech. I think they fit. Actually, I know they fit perfectly. So, yeah. 30th overall, New York Jets, Omar Cooper, wide receiver, Indiana. All you do is move up a few spots. You moved up from 33, very first pick. Yes. For the 49ers traded with him. 33 overall to 30 overall. You wanted to get that fifth-year option, Omar Cooper. Again, the slot is a little oversaturated now. Roll with Mason Taylor on that team. Mason Taylor, Kenny Sadiq, Omar Cooper. I wouldn't have taken Omar Cooper over Denzel Boston. A true extra Garrett Wilson would have been better. But they only had to move up a few spots. So I'll give it a B+. 31st overall, Tennessee Titans jumping in from 34 to 31 to get Keldrick Falk. Defenseman from Auburn. Very raw player. High tools, but raw player. He gets pressure on the QB, but he runs past the QB and fails to finish sacks a lot of times. But working with Jermaine Johnson, working with guys like Malik Herring, who they signed in free agency, John Franklin Myers, his versatility. If anyone can get the most out of a raw, quote-unquote, project player like Keldrick Falk, it is Robert Saleh. What a draft. Cardinal Tate and Keldrick Falk. I'm giving Falk to the Titans at 31 and A-. Very last pick of the draft. This was I don't know if controversial is the word, but this stirred a lot of emotion from people. 32nd overall, Seattle Seahawks, Jadarian Price, running back, Notre Dame. And then after that, the running backs were all dead, apparently, and dried up significantly. They didn't want to mess around with Mike Washington Jr. or Jonah Coleman or Kalen Black or guys like that. They wanted a true lead back to supplant Emmanuel, quote-unquote, supplant, if there was any value there, but Emmanuel Wilson and George Holani. I've warmed up to this a lot. This is not from a fantasy perspective, real football perspective. He's going to be the day one bell cow. Charbonnet won't be back till mid to late November at the very, very late earliest. I think early December is more what we're looking at with a mid-January ACL tear, early February, and then mid-February even surgery on the ACL tear. I'm going to give this a B. Again, I mean, he's better than a guy that they reached on a handful of years ago as a first-round running back in Rashad Penny. And Jadavion Price, many people, including myself at most of the time, have compared him to Kenneth Walker, both very extremely limited receiving profiles in college. Kenneth Walker at Michigan State and Jadavion Price at Notre Dame, respectively. But in the NFL, the Seahawks turned Kenneth Walker into a high-end pass-catching back. Maybe they do that with Price. I think Price is a more patient runner. I don't think there's as much like give or take. Like Kenneth Walker, you'll have to deal with the quote unquote dirty runs. He's always looking for the home run ball. I think he's always looking to bounce to the outside. I think Jadavion Price is much better in short yardage situations. The pass protector is going to be Emmanuel Wilson, and then maybe some pass catching duties to George Holani here and there. But for all intents and purposes, this is your bell cow back in Jadavion Price. So all that put together plus more, I'm giving it a B. Anyways, guys, as a reminder, in the coming days, this was today's first round grades. In the coming days, I'm going to be giving you my favorite day 2 picks of the draft, rounds 2 and 3, that is, and then favorite day 3 picks of the draft, which is rounds 4 through 7. So please look out for that. Speaking of looking out for stuff like that, you can follow me on Twitter/X at @AWeingartner13 for any additional NFL thoughts, opinions, and discussions over there. Please let me know down in the comments below some of your favorite picks of the first round this year, 2026 NFL draft. What are some of your least favorite picks in the first round this year of the 2026 NFL draft? Am I being too harsh on some? Am I not being harsh enough? More fun? Why? More specifically on some? Let me know that down in the comments below. Please share. Please like and subscribe for all the content I just mentioned plus more. Please share this video with anyone and everyone you know. Thank you for the support as always. I greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time. Goodbye.